Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 2nd, 2025 Board of Adjustment meeting. May we please have the determination of quorum?
Rob Pierce.
Present.
Pat Caldwell.
Present.
Peter Gershon.
Present.
Kathy Julian. Kathy?
Present.
Thank you. Leo Hirschney.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would all please stand and join us in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we please have the ethics law announcement?
Board members are reminded that if with respect to any matter or person coming before the board today, you've received a gift or a loan, you have a pecuniary interest, you have a commitment in a private capacity such as family, employment, business, or similar relationship, or if you've provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered, you need to disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time that the matter is being considered. You must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it's clear the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of a judgment of a reasonable person. Board members are also reminded if you've had any contact outside this meeting with any person interested in the matter coming before the board, you need to disclose the nature of that contact. This meeting is being conducted in county chambers and via Zoom. To attend via Zoom, log onto the Zoom webinar. Click the Join a Meeting and use meeting ID 872-1567-5749. The meeting can also be attended via telephone only, 1-669-900-9128, same meeting ID number, and pressing pound. For those wishing to provide public comment via Zoom, log into the Zoom webinar and use the raise hand feature during any public comment period. Public comment can be provided via telephone by pressing *9 to raise the hand and *6 to mute and unmute.
Thank you. Mr. Lloyd, the appeal procedure, please.
Yeah, most decisions rendered by the Board of Adjustment are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Board of Adjustment and qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 775-328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and the application fee.
Thank you. It's time now for general public comment. If anyone has anything to say about anything not having to do with today's agenda item.
I have no public comment in chambers. I have no general public comment on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Let's look to approve today's agenda. Has everyone taken a look? Any changes, comments, issues?
No changes.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve as written.
Second, Pat Caldwell.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Now let's look to the September 4, 2025 draft minutes. Has everyone reviewed any comments, changes?
The September 15th draft minutes.
We're doing September 4 first and then the 15th.
I don't have any changes.
No comment.
I'll take a motion.
I move to approve as written.
Leo Hirschney, for the record, I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor to approve the September 4, 2025 draft minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll look to approve the September 15, 2025 draft minutes. Any changes, comments there?
No.
I'll take a
Pat
motion.
Caldwell make a motion to approve the September 15th, 2025 minutes.
This is Rob, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the September 15, 2025 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Okay, now we will move on to what everyone is here for. Public hearing item 9A. Mr. Lloyd, would you please introduce?
Yes, this is special use permit case number WSUP 250013, the Sanctuary of God Church, for hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve a special use permit for religious assembly use to allow for the construction of a 15,000 square foot single-story church, which would include approximately 9,000 square feet of worship assembly space and 6,000 square feet of support areas such as classrooms, offices, restrooms, and foyer. The project would also include a parking area for 154 parking spaces, utility infrastructure, and site grading in the amount of 18,000 cubic yards. And representing Washoe County in this matter is Senior Planner Eric Young.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. I'm Eric Young from the planning program. I do have this special use permit to discuss with you today, SUP 25-0013, otherwise known as Sanctuary of God Religious Assembly. The project area is up in the Golden Valley area of the North Valleys. It's a 5-acre parcel on a cul-de-sac that forms the terminus of the Rolling Ridge Road. It's one of 6 right around 5-acre parcels that are surrounded by the 1-acre parcels of the Golden Valley Estate subdivision. It's adjacent to the city of Reno along the southern and the eastern edges of the parcel, but the city of Reno has provided what we call edge matching, meaning when that subdivision was done, they matched the size of the county parcels along the edge, and it is zoned low-density suburban. I'll go back to the photograph for you. You can see this is the 5-acre parcel. There's Rolling Ridge Road that comes off of East Golden Valley down to the south and ends in that cul-de-sac right there at the subject parcel. So the request is to build a 15,000 square foot building for the purpose of religious assembly on the property. The request also includes site grading in the amount of 18,000 cubic yards. That's not abnormal for a project of this size. There is no bringing import or export. This is all what they refer to as balancing of the site, but it is a component of the SUP because of the it meets the threshold for a special use permit. They would also like to construct approximately 156 parking spaces with landscaping and lighting that is consistent with what the code requires. Here's a close-up of the site, a little bit easier to look at than the first 2 that we looked at. Rolling Ridge Road comes in there from the east, and we've talked about a cul-de-sac. It's not really what you would see in a developed subdivision like a cul-de-sac, but it is a cul-de-sac where the road ends right there at this subject parcel. The parcels there on the east side and along on the south are the ones that are in the city of Reno. Does my pointer do anything for you? So I'm able to point at this one here. These parcels along here are the ones that are in the city of Reno. Then what is being proposed for the site is this. The church there in the northern portion, the building there in the northern portion of the site, with the front elevation facing south. A significant amount of parking, but it is consistent with what the code requires. This is a conceptual layout. What is submitted with a building permit would have to meet exactly what code requires or supersede that. So in this case, we have a couple of instances of too many parking spaces in a row without breaking for landscaping, those little things like that. The specific design criteria would match code with the submission of a building permit, but this is a good conceptualization of the proposed plan. The front elevation that we can see here would be facing south. The front elevation, the building is about 27, 28 feet tall at the peak, about 14 there at the eave, where the eave starts, at the plate. Expansive front windows in the front, some treatment to the building to try and offset the prefab nature of the proposed structure. The side and the back of the building remains rather plain, but as we can see on this, it would face up to the north. And perhaps I suspect some of you have been out there on my site visit. That view from the north is one of the less obvious views from the north. So that expansive elevation with no windows may be difficult, but it is facing in the proper direction for a side with that treatment. The side is treated with a wainscot and some windows and doors. Once again, treated to soften the appearance of the somewhat prefabricated, pre-designed building. So, moving on to the findings that would be required for this, because I know that there's an increased focus on the findings by the board recently, and staff wants to be careful to focus on the findings along with you. So the first finding is consistency, that it's consistent with the action programs policies of the master plan for the North Valleys. The North Valleys area plan and the master plan in general don't have a lot specifically to say about this proposed use in this area. So they're really somewhat silent on these, the impact of these types of uses in the North Valleys. As far as the improvements go, all of the improvements that are required to make it happen, of course, would be coincident with development. They will have to hook up to the City of Reno water and sewer, which will require coordination with the City of Reno. We got comments from the City of Reno in that regard and included them in the conditions of approval. There is also a requirement for additional ingress-egress, which would likely have to come through that same portion where they connect to Reno. We can go back to that slide. You can see where we're talking about the location. Oops, excuse me. So down here in the southeast corner, right in here, connects to the City of Reno. There is homeowner association open space and homeowner association property right here that the applicant would have to work an agreement to cross those easements in order to connect to water and sewer and provide that required additional ingress-egress for safety purposes. So that's where most of the utility connections and the potential additional egress would occur. Perhaps this can help you see it as well. In this corner down here is where they would have to make some adjustments for that ingress-egress. But those improvements to the roadway, those additional facilities are conditioned as conditions of approval and will have to be coincident with the development as it would move forward. The site suitability finding is in reference to the physical suitability of the site. The site is physically suitable for most types of development, for any type of development that's allowed in the LDS zone. There's nothing special about it that makes it physically unsuitable. That balancing of the site and the additional SUP approval for the grading is what will ultimately make the site physically completely suitable for this type of development, but there aren't any physical development constraints on this property that make it physically unsuitable for religious assembly. There are no military installations nearby that would be impacted. The state airport is not close by, but it is the closest one. So the last finding, issuance not detrimental, that the permit will not be significant detrimental to health, public safety or welfare, injurious to a property or improvements of adjacent properties, or detrimental to the character of the surrounding area. So the development code has regulations and conditions of approval that are designed and will make sure any development on that parcel is not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. And they're designed also to make sure that development on that parcel is not injurious to adjacent parcels, meaning there's not going to be additional runoff, there's not going to be additional erosion or things like that that would happen to the properties. This proposed development, though, will likely impact the character of the surrounding area. It's difficult to say exactly how. The trip generation report did not indicate enough trips to cause a full traffic analysis. Our engineering department reviewed that trip generation and approved it, said it was reasonable and rational. So in terms of an empirical number to look at about what kind of activity and what might happen, the numbers say that that this is not going to be that active of a use. Whether or not that's going to be a neutral, positive, or negative impact on the character of the surrounding area is a difficult thing to say. The parcel could be developed with just building permits without any discretionary review, without us coming here today to talk about it, with a pretty big single-family house and some pretty big accessory structures and some significant activity. If somebody wanted to build an enormous barn, enormous house, and have as many horses and cows as we would permit them, and that would be a significant activity. And so how to balance what can happen there with just permits by right, so to speak, versus what is being proposed is a difficult balance to say, is one really going to be more than the other? And so for staff, I think that a lot of it comes down to the impact of the use. How much will this increased traffic impact the character of the area? How much will activities up there on that parcel, religious assembly activities, impact the character of the area? Staff is certain that there will be an impact to the character, that the character will change. We feel like we have established conditions of approval that will reduce those impacts and make it consistent with a residential neighborhood. So those are the findings and staff's analysis of the findings that you are going to be asked to make this afternoon. There are a typical motion for you to consider if you wish to move for approval. And we will remind you that if you wish to move for denial, that we will ask you to please cite and discuss the specific findings that you feel you can't make. So thank you for hearing the discussion on this item today. I'm available for any questions. The applicant is here and may have some things to talk about in terms of how they responded to the required neighborhood meeting. I know that they submitted a presentation. I'm not sure if they want to do it, but they did make some adjustments after the neighborhood meeting. So thank you, and I'll be done.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Does anybody have any questions for staff at this time?
I'd like to hear the other presentation.
Okay. Is the applicant present? Do they wish to make a presentation? Please. Please state your name for the record and note you have 15 minutes.
Bob Cotter with CR Builders, President of CR Builders, getting ready to celebrate our 45th year in Washoe County. All we would like to say is that we received the staff report, and we appreciate that they recommendation to approve with conditions. We've our entire staff, our entire engineering architects, engineers, they've all reviewed it, and we have absolutely no issues with any conditions. None whatsoever. They're all standard. We're used to them. And so with that said, we really would just like to ask if you have any questions, because we accept totally what has come down from staff. We did meet with the homeowners, and we have some different slides to show you what we've done to the building to soften it and to really make it more correspond with the CCNRs all around, the housing CCNRs. We're going to use cultured stone siding, no metal siding whatsoever. It'll all be wood or cementitious boards. And on the back elevations where there were no windows, we put doors and windows and louvers, and to really soften it up and make it look like the rest of the community. So with that, Jason's here to show you, Jason Doerr with KRI Architecture, the architect of record. And if you have any questions for me, I'll be here to answer them.
Thank you.
Yeah, as Bob said, I'm Jason Deere. I work at KRI Architecture and Design. We're doing the early, we're in a special use process, so we're hardly into building permits yet. But to echo off what Bob was saying, the original drawings that were put up in front of you were our initial submittal. We then conducted a public comment meeting, and these slides are revisions that we've done. I do not know how to use that. Just left and right?
That will advance you.
Cool. Thank you. These slides illustrate some of the comments that came up in the meeting that we've addressed because, as Bob was saying with the siding, one of them was that the gray building you guys saw on the slide before looked like a barn or like a big metal building. So we specifically changed the materials so that it no longer looks that way, and it is more correct with the neighborhood. So it'll have the same, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Hardy building products, but a lot of that lap siding out there is just cementitious fiberboard. We're using the same stuff to clad the exterior, no metal siding whatsoever. At any rate, a couple things, just the conditional approval from staff. Again, here's our site plan. These are revised per the parking standards that, I apologize, I've already forgotten your name, Eric. Per Eric, the civil stuff he was saying before, our landscaping wasn't correct, so we've already proactively gotten ahead of that. Or our parking islands, and the amount of spaces side by side we've proactively gotten to. There's been some civil work these are grading cut and fill diagrams, all preliminary. They'll be done in much more depth when and if we are given a green light to proceed. I'm not 100% sure what that one is. I can't read it. I think it's like a slope intensity diagram. That's existing though. That's not our proposed solution. One big thing that came up in our meeting with the community was they were really worried about there's an existing equestrian trail out there in the blue or the purple on the bottom. So we went out and I took some side photos to show you what we're talking about. Not on our property in any capacity whatsoever. It's actually completely managed across this property through easements on the annexed city arena side. So you can see there's like a trail and that the property, so in the photos on the bottom, does this have a laser on it? Anyway, the horizontal photo on the bottom, you can see the tracks of the tires on the dirt. On the left side of those tracks is the property line for the property owner on the right side of that same photo. Our property line is to the left of those tracks, completely out of this equestrian trail that will not be hindered, touched, impacted in any way by our project. The other one in green was a comment that came up from staff. There's a AT&T and overhead power. So the only thing we've found there, it's 25-foot easement. There's one pole that lands kind of in one of our landscaping islands in our parking lot. The low voltage stuff, the AT&T stuff, we probably will need to underground, and we will take care of that. That's not going to be on the utility holders in any capacity. Just quick. So here's our just kind of programmatic. There's some office space, a kitchen, or excuse me, not a kitchen, a break room, bathrooms, and worship space and some storage. So part of that 9,000 square feet originally talked about up front is stuff like storage, arcade for the worship space. The worship space, the actual place with the seats and everything, is capped at 6,498 square feet, which is the number that drove that ITE, the traffic study. Was a really important number to hit so that we didn't have too many people coming to the site. It was a manageable use, and it didn't require a full traffic report. So we have specifically catered to that threshold to make sure that we're not impacting the community as much as, I don't want to say that we could, but it's responding to their issues with how many people would be coming and going, and made sure to keep it smaller. Materials, so there's some examples on the wall. There's our cultured stone. Now we've got horizontal siding on the wainscot. This top image is the back view that used to be just a sheer wall. Now we've got some windows so that it doesn't look like it's just a big blank face. It's got a vent up top too, a louvered vent.
Canopies over the windows.
Got canopies over the windows. And then the front, we've added some more stone to kind of really make the entrance look like the entrance, so it has a face.
Okay.
And then I just included a copy of our trip generation and I wanted to read this. Due to the low number of trips, less than 80 peak hour trips estimated to be generated by this project, the need for additional traffic analysis now required per Washoe County requirements. So, and then I also included a copy of the conditions in case anybody had any questions. But those are, you guys have all that stuff on hand. So that's my architectural stuff for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions for the applicant at this time?
Leo Harishny, I do. So if you could pull up the site, one of the slides for the site plan. Yeah, either one. Just one with a picture of the overall site versus the adjacent properties. Yeah, that one's fine. So anyway, I guess my question is on the northwest corners, two things, and I may have overlooked it in here. The detention pond that is adjacent, is that going to be adjacent to someone's property?
No, it'll be on our property.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so,
And the size of that will be determined by the analysis of the soils report.
so then with the, also with the grading change and so forth. I didn't get a chance to go to this particular one, but I am familiar with this area. So with the re-leveling of this property, how much is that going to affect the adjacent property owner with your lot and the parking lot raising up over the adjacent property owners there?
No, everything will be lowered to do a balanced site. Everything will be cut down lower than it is now.
Well, sure, for the site itself, but it seems that if you're going to be lowering the site and simply moving higher from the northeast section down to the northwest section, that then that material from the higher section is going to end up raising up and changing the slope that's there now to the adjacent property with some sort of berm raised area, and I don't see anything, and I'm curious as to how much of an increase in elevation on that northwest corner it is going to be to the adjacent property.
In all grading submittals for any permit across the board, you're required to mitigate drainage so that it stays on your site or goes to the street. It's not allowed to go to your neighboring properties. So my short answer is it wouldn't go to the neighbor's property because we're required to maintain that flow on site.
Yes.
Okay.
Peter Kishon, for the record, could you just, looking at this image, do you have the finished floor elevation? Are the parking lots stepped up and up and up?
There's probably.
Please state your first and last name for the record.
Jason Durr.
Thank you.
There's, I think, I don't have the cut sheet, but if memory serves, there's from the bottom of that pond, retention pond, to the top deck, like the finished floor of the church, it was something like 25 feet across.
Yeah, 23.
23 and a half or something like that, across 100 plus feet. So I can't do the math off the top of my head, but that's like a 5% or a 12% slope.
But to answer your question, yes, they are stepped.
Yes.
So right now, the peak seems to be 5220 in elevation. How much cut down do you think you'll be from the peak elevation today?
It's 15 feet, I think, is
15
coming off
feet
the
down?
top of that.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is also going to be remitigated or balanced among the site to bring some of those steeper sections more level for drainage and parking and accessibility, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, thanks. And then again, to clarify, I'm not sure I followed what you were describing. How does the trip generation report operate? Is it based on total square footage of
Yes.
the building?
No.
And then you estimate the number of people that can participate? I mean, there seems to be some confusion about how many people can be in the building at one time, is it adequately parked, and how that influences the trip gen.
Yeah, based on the Washoe County
Please state your
standards.
first and last name for the record.
Bob Cotter, Sierra Builders. Based on the Washoe County standards, it's based off of square footage of the sanctuary and the stage, both areas. And if you read the report from Hartfeld, it goes through all of that. I mean, I don't have it all memorized, but it's based on Washoe County standards. They tell you exactly where you have to use your calculations from and how to get there. So there's no fudging of the numbers.
Peter Kishon, for the record. And so with that having been said, on a Sunday service, will there be 154 cars in the parking lot?
Probably not, no.
But that's required by code to have that many spaces?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
I got a question. How many people did you say were going to be on a Sunday service, approximately?
I don't think they have an exact number. It's a very small congregation that exists in Sparks right now, and they're moving out. but the I don't have the number in front of me.
The square footage number or the,
Well, the square footage number only allows you to have so many seats.
correct?
And I believe that,
What is that? What is that number based upon?
I don't have that off the top of my head. It's in the staff report, I believe.
Okay.
I think I read it in there. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
So we don't know exactly how many people are going to be there as of right now on a
So
Sunday or any given day.
I think the space is adequate for like up to 300 seats, but whether or not they're full or whether or not 300 seats has any bearing on our traffic impact analysis that was done on 6,500 square feet, just less than. That was the driving number. So there's also like an occupancy requirement from a health safety standpoint for that same allotted square footage, and that's a different number altogether. It's calculated, divided by like 1 per 15, let's say. So, but that is from a fire standpoint on how many people can safely use the building.
Yeah.
So the parking number is a function of the square footage of the space. The occupancy number is a function of how much square footage at what kind of use.
Yes.
And that's how you arrive at how many people legally and safely can inhabit this space. So,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Excuse me for a second, but Rob, this is Pat Caldwell for the record. On the last page of the report, it shows the average number of attendees will be 364,
364.
There you go.
if I'm correct in that.
Now, I'm just trying to figure out if there's if you have to do a mass evacuation, how that's going to fit into the equation going out on.
Bob
Sure.
Cotter, that was one of the conditions of a secondary exit, which we will do at the same time with the easement of the utilities. So yes, that is a valid condition that we agree with.
And we've also provided adequate amount of exits for that occupancy number. Like, all of this stuff is, there's no wiggle room. There's code to enforce all that.
No, I understand that. I'm just looking at the road.
Gotcha.
The capacity
Yeah.
and the fact that there's no stoplight on Golden Valley Road.
Sure.
Sure.
Where you guys are going. So,
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Eric. Eric's got a better answer. Eric's got something.
Go ahead, Commissioner Julian.
Eric Young, Washoe County
Oh,
Planning.
Pardon.
He
Sorry?
was going to answer my question.
Go ahead, Eric first, and then Commissioner Julian after.
A traffic analysis,
Okay,
a traffic
thank you.
count on,
I actually would like
I'll wait.
Eric Young to answer that.
Member Julian, just a moment. Member Julian, just a moment. Can you hear me?
Eric Young can answer that question, and then I'll ask my question.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
hi, Eric Young, Washoe County Planning. Thank you. The trip generation is an interesting situation because it is, as a religious assembly, more focused on a single day that isn't typically the Monday through Friday that a trip generation analysis would typically be done on. However, we do have leeway to require additional analysis for this situation. Janelle Thomas is here from engineering today. If you'd like to talk to her about how she went through those extra requirements, what they did to try and account for the Sunday use. So that was thought of and reviewed as part of this traffic analysis or traffic count. Because it is, we do recognize that a use that's focused mostly on one day might not be captured in our typical review of what's happening with traffic. So Janelle was able to require a review that would try and capture that, and she's here and can talk to you about that if you would like. But I wanted to let you know that that is something that staff sees and tries to think through.
Janelle, could you answer that, please?
And this is Peter for the record. I just want to point out that in the trip generation study,
it actually indicates that the church currently meets at other locations and sees average attendance between 85 and 95 attendees. And therefore, they estimated a peak trip gen of 67 trips, which is below the 80 required for a full traffic study.
Janelle Thomas, Senior Licensed Engineer for the record. Yes, so the trip generation analysis is performed in compliance with the International Traffic Engineers Trip Generation Manual. And so that number that is provided within the traffic analysis or the trip generation analysis is based upon that standard, which we have adopted as, that is what we require the applicant to utilize when analyzing. That is also based upon the square footage of certain uses within the building. So there's so many square feet for assembly, there's so many square feet for office space, and so all of that is kind of carved out, and the appropriate tables are utilized for determining that peak hour trip analysis. We did request and require the applicant to address Sunday peak hours due to the primary use occurring during that Sunday peak hour. And that is acknowledged within the ITE trip generation manual. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. I
Okay.
think my personal opinion is usually when a business moves from one small place to a big, they're hoping for expansion, they're hoping for more people.
Yeah, and so what nationally we have recognized is that the capacity and the trips that are being generated by a specific structure, it is based on that square footage of whatever the use is within that building.
So
And
based
so
upon
that's
the-
how it's calculated.
Based upon the square footage, it would be 80, so it would be under the 80.
It was less than 80 for the peak hour trips, yes.
So, Leo Horeshny for the record. So you said for the ITE report, it's generated, or it's calculated, I thought I heard something about usage. So are there
type?
different, the
Yeah.
different types? So is there a type for religious assemblies?
Yes, there is. And that table was utilized for generating that
All right.
number.
This is Pat Caldwell for the record. Really, in looking at where the congregation is today with the 95 participants, and then like what Rob was saying, building a larger church with 154 spaces, and with the attendance saying that they'll average 350 something. To me, that shows that there's going to be a tremendous amount more traffic than what was previously shown as just their smaller congregation. So why build a church so large with so many spaces if you're not planning on an increased usage of the road? I have a question about the access from Rolling Ridge on Spearhead. I went out to the site and I stayed there for a while and watched the traffic. Golden Valley is extremely busy. The turn going right from Spearhead is a fairly short approach, and so the number of cars heading down after a Sunday service, turning right, there's quite a bit of traffic on Spearhead, and then turning left on Golden Valley with that many cars just seems like that the traffic is going to increase substantially. Obviously, I haven't done an analysis other than my own visual inspection of being out there, but it just seems like it would generate an extreme amount of backup going up the road, trying to make a left turn on Golden Valley, and it would be unsafe to, maybe 150 cars, because there's 154 parking spaces, could potentially be wanting to turn left or right on Golden Valley. There's no light there, there's only a stop sign. So has that been addressed at all in any way that?
So Janelle Thomas for the record again. The way that we approach this is not dissimilar to any other, development that we're looking at. And so we rely upon the tools that we utilize for analyzing what those peak hour trips are going to look like. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to show up and occupy all 154 spaces at one time, but this is nationally acquired information that we utilize to generate these numbers.
Right, this is Pat Caldwell for the record, but you can't say that 154 spaces could be full because they're building 154 spaces.
They could be.
Yeah.
And
But again, we're looking at the capacity of the, we are looking at the capacity of the facility by which it's serving. So they may be over parking their facility.
Right.
Yeah, Kathy, Julian, may I have a question here?
Yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you. What is, I'm sympathetic to the questions that the member Caldwell is mentioning. What is the actual limit on occupancy that the fire department would put on that building? I mean, there's a number of 360 some or whatever in the staff report, but what is the limit that the fire department would put on the number of people who could be in that building?
I'm not the appropriate person to answer that question. Janelle Thomas.
I don't believe we have anyone from the fire department here that can answer that
Well,
question.
but my point is, these numbers are being postulated based upon square footage, but I guess, and people are estimating, well, 95 currently, but they put 300 and some in the staff report. My point is, how many could this building contain? And it would seem to me that any kind of traffic analysis for a religious assembly purpose like this should factor in the number of people who could possibly be there based upon because that is the limit that the fire department would put on. And we do have events where it reaches the fire department limit on the number of people. And there must be a figure available with that square footage, how many people could occupy that space.
Janelle Thomas for the record. So the trip generation that is being developed and analyzed at this point is the average. This does not take into consideration maximum occupancy for a building. This is the average peak hour trips this is the number of peak hour trips that are anticipated on a typical Sunday. And so the analysis that has been completed is not taking into consideration maximum occupancy because that's not anticipated to occur on an average Sunday. So, and again, these numbers that we are relying upon are nationally generated for average structures.
Let me just,
of
I've
that
been wanting to
type.
say this for 15 minutes now. What everyone is confused about is this exhibit, and the footer says this is from the Trip Gen Manual 11th edition. I do not believe the applicant is suggesting that there will be 364 attendees. This is a national average upon which their tables are based. So
Correct.
I'm comfortable going with the 85 to 95 attendees and what the Trip Gen report does based on current. This is not what they're saying they're going to be adding.
Then,
This is
just
an
Pat Calder
exhibit.
for the record, then why build 154 spaces?
And thank you. So that table Janelle Thomas for the record, that table actually does use kind of a national average. And so that may be the number that you're glomming onto at this point. And so, but there is there is an equivalency that is used to calculate those peak hour trips, which is 1 per X number of square feet that is at the top of that table. And that's what was utilized in the actual trip generation analysis report that was provided.
Well, one is, this is Pat Calder for the record, one is the number of attendees, and one is the number of trip generations. So are those two different calculations?
They can be.
And are they both based on national standards?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Anybody have any more questions for the applicant or staff at this time?
Yes, sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is Pat Calder for the record. Just reading from the staff's report, traditionally served small residential neighborhoods have not experienced a periodic traffic increase that would result as a consequence of operating a religious assembly use on the subject parcel. It is likely that additional traffic will have an impact on the existing character of the neighborhood, and that's from staff. So we use these national standards to look at the traffic, but we have the reality of Spearhead Avenue, or Way, I think it is, and Golden Valley, there's no traffic lights there, and you have a single point of access. My question is, I understand that there's going to be an emergency access route, maybe through Opal Station. Is that true? A secondary access that was listed in the application?
Janelle Thomas for the record again. Yes, one of the engineering's conditions of approval is to require a secondary emergency access for this facility. Because it is a public facility, that does require that secondary access. If it were simply a residential property, single-family dwelling, with maybe an ADU or a barn or something like that, that requirement wouldn't apply. And I think what Eric was trying to convey previously was that, if this just went straight to building permit for a single-family residence with a barn, this requirement wouldn't be applied to that facility because it's a single-family residence.
So Leo Rishny for the record. I have seen the references or read the references, and I didn't keep track of where it was, but it strikes me that the residents of Opal Station Road are aware, and they understand that they're very small, very narrow, not fully up to standards road will be used theoretically in an emergency, but I see nothing in any of the site plans or any of the images that have been shown today of how and what that is going to look like. I assume it'll be the standard emergency access gates that we see with a bar that is only opened under certain circumstances, that it's not going to be used as a typical normal access or ingress egress spot. Is that correct?
Janelle Thomas for the record, yes, that is accurate. This would be a gated emergency secondary access. And so if the fire department needs to get in and they aren't able to get in off of the main cul-de-sac or vice versa, if they need to exit the site, they would be able to unlock that gate and provide for secondary access.
This may be just me, but in future, and I don't know what the expectation is for staff in future or something like that, it seems that not to me that that's necessarily a deal breaker, but it seems to me that something like that is important and ought to be integral, at least, denoted visually as opposed to just verbally that such and such is going to happen. That it seems to me in the plans that secondary access point should have been more noted in, whether it was in Sierra Builders plans or in the expectation from the county. That's just a personal comment that I'd like to throw out there because I think that's important.
This is Pat Calder for the
Okay.
record. I have another question. Sorry, Kathy, do you have a question first?
Yes, well, going back to this number of people, on page 83 of the staff report, Exhibit E, there's a reference to expected number of staff and attendees, and the figure of 400 is given, which perhaps is what generated the 154 parking spaces. So it would be helpful to understand. I have a hard time with thinking in terms of only 95 when the applicant themselves have suggested that expected attendees would be 400, as many as 400. So it does seem to me there is some growth anticipated with the construction of this large facility and number of parking spaces. So perhaps someone would like to address that. Thank you.
If I may, the ratio of parking is based on the two things. It's based on either pew space or number of seats. It's essentially one parking space for every 3 seats within the worship area, plus 300 square feet, plus 1 space for every 300 square feet of additional public space. So that really is how we calculate the required number of parking spaces. So hopefully that helps.
Yes, that helps for the parking spaces, but nonetheless, the applicant has used the term 400 potential attendees in Exhibit E, so that it would be helpful to understand that number. Thank you.
This is Pat Cola for the record. Yeah, in looking at that, I mean, I really have to make the assumption that they're building 154 spaces to accommodate 400 people, and so to assume that it's going to be less based on what, I'm not sure. As far as the secondary access, does the current applicant have access currently through the HOA, which owns the 2 parcels that would create access to Opal Station?
No, they do not. We haven't requested it.
Sure.
Bob Cotter, Sierra Builders. It has not been requested yet. We do that during the process of the permitting, getting the easements for all the utilities. We'll put the same easement request for the road per the condition on the same easement request.
This is Pat Caldwell for the record. So what do I assume then as far as secondary access?
That there will be one.
That there will be, even though you have not
It's a
discussed
requirement.
this?
It's a condition of, if without it, we can't build.
Yeah.
It's a condition.
Okay.
So if we are not granted the secondary access, then we wouldn't be able to build the project.
Okay.
Are we ready to hear from these nice folks? Any more questions?
Actually, I do have another question. Sorry, this is Pat Calder for the record. If I could have Eric actually come up and put up one of the slides from the very beginning. I think it was the very first, one of the first points that you made.
Okay. This is the
yeah.
first slide with words.
Yeah, keep going, please. I think it was in the conditions.
Oh, okay.
There, actually. So my question is, for this body, the BOA, the staff comment says, the Washoe County Master Plan, including the North Valley Area Plan, does not articulate any policies or action programs that would have an impact on the construction or operation of the proposed religious assembly. And you had made a comment that the county commissioners typically would make this determination, I believe, that what the proper use was of this. And I thought that's what you said. Did you not?
I apologize. I'm not recalling what you're speaking of. This particular finding is specifically in reference to finding policies or action programs in the master plan that would have some sort of an impact on this proposal. So things like we don't have enough civic uses or we need more civic uses. One of the things that the North Valley says is they need more commercial uses, that they don't have enough of that. And so there are a variety of things in the master plan and the North Valley's plan that talk about that area's needs, and none of those discussions have any kind of a nexus to this project.
So they haven't discussed that, is what you're saying, or?
Right. Nothing about this project can really be found to be impacted by a policy in the North Valley's area plan or a policy in the master plan.
Right. Okay, thank you.
As a follow-up to that, Kathy Julian, for the record, it's zoned low-density residential, right?
Low-density suburban.
Suburb. So, and then, so the special use permit is coming into play because it's not going to be so low-density suburb would it allow for a warehousing space? No, because that would be commercial, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It wouldn't allow for any business?
There are certain businesses that are permitted in LDS, but they're very limited in range and they require special use permits.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Rob?
Eric, this is Rob for the record. I just got one question. Can you back up to the picture of the site plan? Right there. Okay, so the pond, would I be correct in saying that is the southwest corner, lower corner?
We'll say the west corner, right? Yeah, it's west.
And it's my understanding that they're supposed to keep all the water on the property, but sometimes we all know that the property goes over, and if there's a big snowstorm or runoff with all that asphalt, there's a very little place there for the water to accumulate, and so it may go over. So have we taken that into consideration, that it may go into the neighbor's yard? Because when I was out there, I didn't see anywhere else it could go except the neighbor's yards.
Eric Young, Washoe County Plan. It's a good question for this area. These standards will require them to look at the runoff that's going to come from that parking lot. That's one of the reasons for the reviewing this as a special use permit, and also as reviewing it when the building permit comes in to see how they intend to do that. And this will get some extra review. The engineering staff is very aware of the water table here. It's not always easy to dig a pond here because you can hit the water table and then your water has no place to go. So how water percolates, the type, as was indicated by the consultant, the soils analysis will have a very large impact on the eventual design of that facility for how much of it can drain and where is the water table. So there is going to be a significant analysis that goes into how that drainage pond works. And our engineering staff is very familiar with the nuances of this North Valley's area and the extra things that they're going to have to look at. We discussed those with the applicant in some pre-application meetings, that those are going to be considerations they'll have to think of. But the entire intent of the review is to make sure that that doesn't happen.
If I can weigh in also, keep in mind what you are reviewing today is essentially a conceptual plan. If approved, the applicants will need to come in with a full set of building plans. And in addition to that, engineering requires a detailed hydrology and hydraulic report that details the stormwater runoff, the stormwater collection requirements, and that would all be included as part of some very detailed building plans that would be reviewed by all of Washoe County.
That's all I got right now. Thank you.
Okay, Kathy Julian, for the record, a follow-up on that. Will at any point the public have any ability to have any review or input into those further analyses, studies, and permitting process? Or is this the last time the public, the residents of that area will have access to the information and an ability to comment?
This is the public engagement opportunity. There are always opportunities for any resident of the county to complain about what they see if they feel like it is not according to code. And we process code violations for grading on it. That's one of our more common code enforcement requests, is to come out and look and see if somebody's doing their grading correctly. But in terms of public engagement and input on how the site will be designed before it happens, today is the opportunity for that.
Thank you.
Leo Harishny, one last question. I don't know who, I guess, sorry, Eric, it might be for you. It's an easy one. Where in the approval process is, and excuse me if I should know this, where is the approval process for any improvements to Rolling Ridge, sidewalks, gutters, stormwater, as far as access to the main, entry, ingress and egress? So where does that fit in?
That's part of the building permit requirements for this project. That would have to be submitted as part of the overall site improvement, and those would be reviewed by Janelle and her staff to meet those Washoe County road standards and to meet the requirements of the conditions that they put on the project.
Would that be contingent on, would the developer and the church be funding those, or would that be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm curious, do we have any public comments?
12 public comments.
Okay.
All right, here we go. David Perdue.
And I'll remind everyone to please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak, and to whatever extent it starts to get repetitive, you are welcome to speak, but just keep that in mind.
Okay. David Perdue,
Excuse me, Michael Markey, you're next.
David Perdue, 8495 Opal Station Drive. And I have a written comments to try to make it on point and succinct, and some of it has been overcome by the developer's change in his metal building idea. I wanted to thank you for noting that there are 86 people that attend now, but as you said, they're planning for a new building. New buildings mean new and bigger building. New and bigger buildings would mean more people. So let me write what I wrote. I live at 8495 Old Station Drive, due east and adjoining the property that is being discussed. I strongly object to a large church in my quiet neighborhood, and there are scores of problems with this ill-conceived plan. There are no other residential buildings within a mile of us except North Valley High School, and it already breaks the peace. The neighborhood lots are 1 to 1 1/4 in the city, and mostly 5-acre lot horse properties in the county. They are all peaceful. This will not be quiet, and we do not want 200 to 300 to 400 cars a Sunday, depending on the number of services. And the reason I say that is because I was in a church in California, and we had 4 services a Sunday, 3 in the morning and 1 in the evening. So 80 trips, is that based on 1 service, or is that based on 2? Is that based on more? They certainly would love to have 4 services a day, I would observe, and more people. a metal building, and now we won't see all the metal building, but a metal building with metal roof and vinyl fence are planned. They plan for some stone face on the building, but it will not hide all the building, and I understand that's now been changed. All neighboring houses in the city are stucco, and many in the county as well. None are metal. It will be ugly, and no matter how nice it looks when new, it will lose its appearance quickly, unlike stucco. How will a plastic fence, they're planning on a vinyl fence, how will a plastic fence look in 5 to 10 years? Will the landscape be maintained, or will it be allowed to die in a few years? This is on my property line. I am the closest one to the building. Today, I have a peaceful view of Peavine just above my home vineyard. And when it's done, I'll have an ugly metal building. It'll still be ugly. It'll have a metal roof. It'll have a few more windows. There are 3 elevations in this proposal with this huge building on the top, an eyesore.
Sir, your time is up.
Sir.
Oh, okay.
Michael Marquis, followed by Lane Halford.
Just a reminder to state your name for the record. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, board members. Michael Marquis for the record, and I'm here to oppose the SUP for the Sanctuary of God Church. My handouts contain images and supporting information complementing what you will hear today from myself and others. The SUP does not meet the requirements set forth in parts A through D of section 110.810.30 in the Washoe County Development Code. With respect to consistency, the area is zoned for low-density residential use and consists of 1+ acre homes on all adjacencies of the site, encompassing Golden Valley Road, Spearhead Way, Rolling Ridge Road, and Opal Station Drive. Inserting a large commercial structure with a tiered parking lot right in the middle of several rural neighborhoods is neither consistent with the rural lifestyle of the adjacent neighborhoods, nor does it fit in with the look and feel of the area. Granting the SUP would destroy the consistency of our cherished rural neighborhoods. Next slide, please. With respect to improvements, the SUP does not incorporate adequate roadway improvements, safety measures, and drainage solutions which would be necessary to accommodate the influx of traffic, both pedestrian and vehicular, and prevent hazardous parking lot residue from infiltrating the water table and well systems of downstream neighborhoods. Next slide, please. Rolling Ridge Road and Opal Station Drive, private road, are neither suitable for the construction or the traffic increase of several hundred vehicles. Without improvements such as traffic lights, traffic signs, sidewalks, street lights, off-site community parking, and road widening, none of the aforementioned streets are equipped to handle the increased traffic burden. Previous slide, please. With respect to site suitability, the site is not suitable for single entry exit of all construction and subsequent vehicular traffic occurring on a very small residential street. This would cause traffic congestion and safety concerns in many neighborhoods, including all of the aforementioned streets plus Court Star Court. Overflow parking would impact existing neighborhoods and hinder ease of access for emergency services to those neighborhoods. There are more suitable sites within the North Valleys. With respect to issuance, not detrimental. Granting this SUP would be detrimental to the quality of life for all of the residents in the adjacent and surrounding neighborhoods by allowing all of the following to occur. Previous slide, please. Disrupting the peaceful rural lifestyles that the residents' livestock, domesticated animals, equestrian trail users, and wildlife inhabitants enjoy. Placing an unsustainable burden on our small residential neighborhood roads. Bringing safety concerns and a potential increase in crime as a result of the surge in vehicular and pedestrian traffic, creating a daily reminder of a large structure and tiered parking lot that don't fit with the aesthetics of the surrounding neighborhoods, ushering in noise and light pollution, negatively impacting the property values, and introducing health risks through hazardous water runoff, dust particulates from the grading, exhaust fumes from the traffic, and potential mosquito breeding grounds. Based on all these concerns, I respectfully request the board deny this SUP. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Pat Calder for the record. Are we allowed to ask questions?
You need to be careful because you can only discuss the agendized matter, so it is not typical to ask questions during public comment.
My question is, at your neighborhood meeting, did the applicant address all your concerns and questions that you had
Michael Marquis for the record. No, the neighborhood meeting, they collected comment cards, of which most of the folks here attended. Those were all posted to the site, but none of them have been addressed. No subsequent documentation was found on the site. And I've looked every day. So no, they haven't been addressed.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Elaine Hofford, followed by Chuck Allen.
It sure is bright.
Not very well. Elaine Hanford, for the record. I'm a geologist, professionally registered since 1979. I know North Valleys extremely well, and I've made presentations to the County Commission on the hydrology of Golden Valley. I want to address two things that really have not been talked about a lot here today in terms of site suitability. One is the geology, two is the hydrology. In terms of the geology, you all have a handout. If you look at the map on page 4, you can see, and unfortunately I apologize, it doesn't project very well. This site is in the middle of the area shown there as purple. That indicates that the rock in that area is what we call a rhyolitic tuff. It's been hydrothermally altered, meaning after it was deposited, warm fluids went through and changed the chemistry of the rock, altered the minerals that are normally found in rhyolite into clays. Those clays are highly expansive. If you look at the very last page of your handout, you'll see a copy of an abstract in which I was co-author in 1986 that speaks to the expansive character of these volcanic rocks. They're very difficult to develop because of the expansive character. The other issue associated with them is the fact that these clays swell up when they get water, dry, and shrink. So you get a shrink-swell repetition, which is not good for structural foundation. More importantly, they're not good to allow water to infiltrate into the ground. The water stays on the surface and it becomes runoff. I used the rough numbers, very rough numbers, that were provided in the applicant's preliminary application. They came up with a rough size for the detention pond. By my calculation, when we get a good rain out in the Golden Valley, we can get up to 3 inches in a 24-hour period. That means that detention pond needs to be at least 1.5, if not twice, the size shown on these preliminary diagrams. The other issue is that of contamination of those waters. Any runoff from the building, from the site itself, and they're estimating 80% of that property has impervious surfaces, meaning all the water that falls is going to run off. It's going to run down into, they're going to funnel it into that detention pond. It will take all contaminants with it. Those contaminants, if they get into the subsurface, will contaminate the wells that people rely on for domestic water. That's a significant health hazard. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Allen, followed by Michael Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, Chuck Allen for the record. I'm here today to voice my strong opposition to the Sanctuary of God special use permit currently under review. My wife Teresa and I were residents of Rolling Ridge Road for 24 years, and we've lived on Opal Station Drive for the past 8 years. I'm speaking not just for ourselves, but alongside many neighbors who share deep concerns about this proposal. I'll reference my points directly to Article 8, Administrative Permits, Section 110.808.25. A through D. Let's start with A, consistency with the master plan. Golden Valley is designated as a low-density suburb area with homes built on 1 to 1+ acre lots. When Lennar and Genuine developed here in 2008 and 2022, they were required to follow that standard. The new homes built by those developers, which bordered the existing Golden Valley homes, had to be built on 1 acre lots. It's inconsistent and frankly unfair to those builders and residents to now allow a commercial project on Rolling Ridge Road. That 5 acre parcel should remain residential, period. B, improvements. Rolling Ridge Road is a narrow street with only 11 homes that terminates at a cul-de-sac. There are no curbs, sidewalks, or lighting. The proposed 154-space asphalt parking lot adds a large impervious surface on sloped terrain, increasing runoff and pollution risk. The traffic from the church services and events would raise the risk of accidents and make it difficult for residents to safely enter or exit their own driveways. During the winter months, Rolling Ridge Road is one of the last county roads plowed, making this street even more dangerous if the project goes through. Let's talk about site suitability. This road simply cannot support the traffic this project would bring. While the pastor previously stated services would be only held on Sundays, churches routinely host weddings, funerals, fundraisers, and educational events throughout the week. There's also been no clear explanation of the secondary ingress or egress. You mentioned that. If routed through Opal Station Drive, which already sees heavy traffic, it would worsen congestion and safety concerns. My 32 years of law enforcement here in Northern Nevada can validate those safety concerns. Let's talk about D, issue of the permit being detrimental. Golden Valley is defined by its quiet rural feel and 1 acre home sites. Residents who live on Rolling Ridge Road chose this location so they could raise families on a safe street with no traffic, ride horses, and not worry about children and grandchildren playing near the street. A 15,000 square foot building would permanently alter that. My backyard directly faces the parcel. When I step outside or sit on my porch, I shouldn't have to look at a massive building and a parking lot full of cars. The noise, the lighting, the traffic, and transient parking are not what any resident signed up for. I'm not alone in feeling that way. In closing, I ask you not to approve this permit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Rodriguez, followed by Lori Aguilar.
Can you have the overhead, please? Michael Rodriguez for the record, 7805 Tamara Drive. There were 2 points that caught my attention during the August 20th meeting on the property owners. Abner and Manuel Lopez, their general contractor Steve, civil engineer Rebecca, and a few of their consultants presented their concept and design proposal to the inviting community. When asked about the size of their Sparks congregation, Abner Lopez said that they were about up to 150 roughly. Steve said this would suggest about 75 cars. Their current worship is a 4,000 square foot suite located inside a large industrial complex. 28 Hardy Drive and Sparks also list 4 assigned parking spots. Understandably, this is a location also limits the hours of ministry, as shown here. Their ministry meets 3 times a day at present. Apologize. My time here, sorry. As stated here, they meet on Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 9. They also meet on Sunday from 10 to 12. Their Facebook gallery images show approximately 140 standing chairs. 10 rows of 7 chairs on either side, plus pastoral, music, volunteer personnel, which apparently is about another 20 people. The agenda for today, the staff report discussed, there are also 2 points that I'd like to highlight. The first point on today's agenda and the staff is the case description. The project would also include a parking area of 154 parking spaces. The second point on page 6 of the staff report lists 3 sentences in the paragraph. It is likely to blah, 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 but it does show that, however, the trip generation study is submitted by the applicant. Both staff seem to have taken the applicant's trip as a study as gospel. These 154 proposed parking spaces alone would suggest more than 80 peak trip hours, more than, and would warrant a full traffic analysis. The impact on the 1,600-foot non-divided street of Rolling Ridge and safety for travel of its residents will become severely affected. Any parking overflow due to weddings, funerals, or other dedicated events or snow will compound this. And what of the safety access for the fire and emergency vehicles? You have more pictures that I handed out to you.
Thank you.
Lori Aguilar, followed by Clyde Cordova.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Aguilar. My husband Oscar and I have been living on Rolling Ridge Road for over 24 years. We have several concerns about the special use permit for the Sanctuary of God Church. Rolling Ridge Road is a small, quiet, zoned residential cul-de-sac. It's also narrow. It's approximately 600 or 1,600 feet long with a grade of about 1,000 feet up Rolling Ridge Road, then 600 feet down to the end of the cul-de-sac. With 11 homes on Rolling Ridge Road and most of the residents living there anywhere between 14 and 52 years, and most of those people are retired. Rolling Ridge Road is a rural residential cul-de-sac with no streetlights or traffic lights. We have one stop sign that goes to the connecting road, Spearhead Drive. Rolling Ridge Road shows signs of distress and cannot handle the heavy flow of traffic the church will bring, as the pictures show. County services on Rolling Ridge Road are far and few between. The road has never been paved in the 24 years I've lived there and only crack sealed a few times. During the winter months, we're lucky to see a snowplow. If we do, it makes a single pass to the top of Rolling Ridge Road, leaving high berms for the residents to remove, and it doesn't even go to the end of the cul-de-sac. Church states in its application the expected number of employees/attendees. Services will accommodate up to 400 people. The parking area is 154 spaces as listed on the permit. The church pastor stated during our community neighborhood meeting that most of the congregants will travel in groups of 2. This still calculates to 200 vehicles traveling up Rolling Ridge Road down to the end of the cul-de-sac to park in 154 spots. Where would the remaining vehicles park? That's a big question for us. Rolling Ridge Road has no side street parking or vehicle parking on the street. This will impact, if cars park there, this will impact the residents from coming and going to their homes, as well as emergency vehicles from getting up our street. The amount of extra traffic, noise, safety issues, not only from Sunday services, but throughout the week with Bible studies, group functions, as well as various events throughout the week will highly disturb our daily routines and our rural lifestyle we're accustomed to. Thank you for your time, and we hope that you consider denying this special permit on Rolling Ridge Road, as the project will create heavy congestion, noise, and safety issues for our street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clyde Cordova, followed by Tom Harden.
Clyde Cordova, longtime resident of Golden Valley. Excuse my voice, allergies. I submitted a full package for your records, for the record. I won't get into that. I'll just get into the comment. Good evening. My name is Clyde Cordova, longtime resident of Golden Valley. I reviewed the staff report for WSUP 250013, and I want to be clear. This proposal is not ready, not safe, not compatible with our community. The county claims the site has adequate infrastructure. It does not. There's no community water, no sewer, no fire hydrants, no activation modeling, The project depends on future agreements, future grading, future fire compliance. That's not planning, that's speculation. The report admits the project will impact the character of the surrounding area. That alone should disqualify it. Our neighborhood is rural, animal zone, built on wells and septics. This high occupancy use threatens our water table, our safety, and our way of life. Fire protection, thank you. Fire protection is deferred to time of construction. In a region with limited access, rising wildfire risk, that's unacceptable. We need proof of readiness and not promises. And beyond safety, this proposal simply does not belong on our street. Our zoning is rural residential with animal rights. High occupancy institution buildings like churches are not compatible by default. They require a special use permit because that conflict with the intent use, and this alone, conflict is too great. I also want to acknowledge that Rob Price and Mr. Caldwell here visited the site and spoke. Rob spoke with me personally. That kind of engagement matters. It shows that some members are willing to look beyond the paperwork and see the real conditions of the grounds. I urge you to reject the permit, not because we're against growth, but because we're responsible in planning infrastructure before intensity and safety before paperwork. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Harden, followed by Emily Hagler.
My name's Tom Harden, and I'm here today representing my wife Cindy and my family. We reside at 3420 Rolling Ridge Court, which is right on the corner of the proposed road going in. I think the board's been presented with some definite facts necessary to make a proper decision, but the decision cannot be based on facts alone. You have to consider the quality of life that will affect our small neighborhood. Presently, it's a quiet, safe, and friendly neighborhood. Rarely do I lock my vehicles, and I leave my house open consistently. We've lived there for 33 years. I bought my house with the intention of never leaving. I've worked hard. My wife has worked hard. We've saved our money. This is our dream home. We don't want to leave. But a situation like this could force us out. It was always the intention when I bought the property, it was always the intention that these would remain 1 acre parcels. That was the selling point for my wife and I. Rolling Ridge, as you've seen, it's narrow, it's decaying, there's no sidewalks, street lights, and we need extensive work to widen and upgrade for excessive traffic. I'm not complaining. I bought into this. I'm fine with this. My concerns are the heavy traffic this will create. There's going to be traffic noise. It's going to affect the animals. I know there'll be increased litter, there'll be pollution, and with this comes safety and crime. I want you to please take into point when making the proper decision to maintain our quality of life. As elected officials, taking in all the information, I hope you make the proper decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Hagler, followed by Judy McKay.
Good morning, or good afternoon now. I'm Emily Hagler for the record. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I respectfully urge you to deny the special use permit for the Sanctuary of God Church on Rolling Ridge Road. Under your governing standards, this project fails to satisfy the required findings for approval. The proposed use is fundamentally inconsistent with the intent and policies of our area's plan. This is a low-density residential neighborhood situated on a narrow dead-end street with no dividing line. Introducing large-scale religious assemblies at the max capacity of 400 is incompatible with both our community's character and the land use framework envisioned for this area. The necessary infrastructure simply does not exist. Rolling Ridge Road lacks sidewalks, streetlights, turn signals at Opal Station and Spearhead Way. As Pat had discussed earlier in his site, those turns are very dangerous to turn left on each one of those roads. The nearest bus stop is nearly 2 miles away with no continuous sidewalk, leaving no viable means for public transportation. No detailed traffic study has been provided despite the fact that this road terminates on a dead-end residential neighborhood. Students from North Valley's high school regularly walk in this area with no sidewalks every day of the week for sports and school events and activities. Cars speed by Spearhead Way at an average of 45 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Additional traffic will only endanger them further. The site location is not physically suitable for high-intensity use. The presence of a water treatment pond creates the potential for well water contamination, which could cost the residents of this community thousands of dollars to connect over to water from the city. In addition, the absence of city road clearing services during weather events will leave the site inaccessible in poor weather conditions. The property lacks adequate infrastructure and roadway capacity needed to support gatherings of this magnitude, and not gatherings of 80 cars per day, but on average 300, they're saying. Approval for this permit would be detrimental to both the residents and the county. Traffic increases will endanger children and pedestrians. Light and noise pollution will erode the residential characteristics of this area. Large assembly use can contribute to crime impacts while providing no offsetted public benefit. Importantly, because churches are exempt from property taxes, this project will add significant burden to the county without generating revenue to mitigate those impacts. Finally, churches are not limited to Sunday worship. Weekday and evening events and activities will multiply these impacts throughout the week, intensifying disruption in surrounding homes. For these reasons, the applicant fails the required findings. Today is your opportunity to set a precedent in this county that our residential zones areas are not for sale for commercial development. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 4 comments left, so Judy McKay, followed by Craig Goodfellow.
Judy McKay. So, good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Judy McKay, and I live on Rolling Ridge Road, directly near the property in question. I'm here today because I have serious concerns about the request for a special use permit to allow a church at the end of our street. This property is currently zoned residential, and the request is asking to place a commercial-style use in the middle of a quiet neighborhood. My husband and I bought our property 52 years ago on this cul-de-sac. At that time, and still today, it was zoned for 1-acre horse parcels designed to protect the quiet residential character of the area. We made our home and raised our family here with the expectation that zoning would be respected and upheld. Allowing a church at the end of Rolling Ridge Road would bring traffic, parking issues, and noise into a neighborhood that was never designed to handle that kind of use. Our street is narrow and quiet, and large gatherings, particularly on evenings and weekends, would create safety concerns as well as disruption to the peaceful environment that residents have relied on for decades. I would also like to bring up another issue. At the bottom of Rolling Ridge is a stop sign, which I know you guys have kind of talked about that. And at Spearhead and Golden Valley Road is another stop sign. Now, Mr. Lopez stated at our neighborhood meeting there would be approximately 400 in the congregation. That would mean at least 100 to 150 cars coming down this narrow street one after another, getting to the bottom and stopping, then going less than a quarter of a mile and stopping again at Spearhead. This would cause, well, actually at Golden Valley Road, this would cause a major backup as Golden Valley Road is a very busy, and they would have to wait 1 car at a time to be able to get onto it. Golden Valley Road used to be a very quiet road that only had a car every now and then. That's when we first moved there. Not so anymore. Golden Valley Road is like a 2-lane highway, as it is a shortcut for Spanish Springs traffic to cut through to Lemon Valley, Red Rock, Cold Springs, and even the freeway. And the reverse is true. Lemon Valley, Red Rock, Cold Springs, and Golden Valley cut through to Spanish Springs. Sometimes it is very hard to get onto Golden Valley Road. And last, Please keep in mind that there is one way in and one way out for this proposed church, and that is Rolling Ridge Road. For these reasons, I respectfully ask you to deny this special use permit. Our neighborhood was planned and zoned as residential, and it should remain that way to protect the quality of life that families like mine have invested in for over half a century. Thank you for your time and for considering my concerns.
Thank you. Craig Goodfellow, followed by Corinne Carmignani.
Hi, my name's Craig Goodfellow. Leo, I wanted to thank you for mentioning my property, our property. It is right next to it. We have the longest property line on there. We had a geologist that talked about the water coming off the hill. We had a retaining wall on our property. That water and hill slid and knocked over my retaining wall. I had to rebuild that. I've lived on the property since 2000. We've lived on the property since 2010. Pat, I really appreciate you also coming out and looking at the traffic that is also on Spearhead and Golden Valley. It is incredibly dangerous right there. We have two markers up on Golden Valley for people that have died there. Rob, I really would appreciate it if you would have came by and said hello. I haven't seen you for a while, so I mean, went to the next door neighbors, my driveway is 100 foot long, and I understand it's a long ways to go. Everybody here has mentioned everything that I don't really want to say any more of. It's just a lot of traffic. I was living in a quiet community, and I don't want a church in our community. I don't want to be looking out my window and saying, yep, there's all the lighting, here's all the partying that might be going on at the church and music and whatever else that might be going on, and the traffic that's there. We walk our dogs down that street. I see kids going up and down that street on Rolling Ridge. I live at 3475 Rolling Ridge. I am the last house. I can't say any more. These people have said it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Corinne Carmignani, followed by Paul Heinen.
Hi, my name is Corinne Carmignani. I am a homeowner of North Star Ranch and also the president of the LMA. I'm here because I have great concerns from some of our homeowners about allowing the approval of this building, of this property. A couple of things that I'm looking at when it's our number of our homeowners back up to that parcel that they're going to be building on. I attended a meeting in August that the person from Goodfellow Valley Trust was there. In fact, they own the piece of property that's next to the parcel that they're wanting to build on. At that meeting, they said they anticipated having 500 members attending. That many members attending is unreal for the vehicles that they would have to travel on the roadway, Golden Valley, as well as into going through that small little property on the rolling hills. And when I look at the proposed lot of what they're wanting to do, when I saw that they're also wanting to build a roadway that would be run parallel to what's also known as a participation area for horses to ride on. And also they're assuming that they would get approval to go into a piece of LMA private property, which would run right next to a home that's on the lot right next to it. And it would have to be also destroying a property which is now a sidewalk to turn it into a road. That seems to be extremely ridiculous for that to be allowed to have a facility to come in with that many people they're wanting to in such a small area, devastating so many things that are going on. And most churches do have more activities that go on other than Sunday. And they're not just quiet. They're having a good time. It's noisy, musical, verbal. And so that's unfair to all the homeowners that are living in that area. So I don't know what your decision is to do this, but if our homeowners had to give approval to allow that roadway to be built, then it's not going to happen. And I don't know if you would force us into not having a choice, but our homeowners are very concerned with this going on. So we're hoping that you do deny it.
Thank you.
Finally, I have Paul Heinen.
Hello, my name is Paul Heinen. My wife and I own the property at 8465 Opal Station Road, which is on the, it borders the property in discussion here. We are on the corner of Opal Station and Golden Valley. I basically wanted to talk about the public safety in regards to the traffic in the area, the parking conditions, and the things that are going to impact the quality of life up there. Golden Valley Road is already incredibly busy, and some people have talked about that already. Where the traffic comes up 7th Street, it crests a hill, and there's always traffic and near collisions in that area. We consistently see emergency vehicles and traffic stops right up there. And there's been, as mentioned earlier, multiple fatalities between Golden Valley Road and where Spearhead intersects Golden Valley Road, and also where the proposed alternate egress road, Opal Station and Golden Valley Road is. If they put in an emergency access gate, that would border my property. We have an easement, and you saw some of the pictures earlier. It showed that there was a private road that borders and that goes through our property to all the properties behind us. My question would be, most of these emergency access gates, you can walk right around them. What will prevent people from avoiding some of the downhill parking and crowding that street on Golden Valley Road, on Opal Station? What will prevent people from parking on our easement, on our private property, or in that area of our community, the entrance to our community? So again, my concern really is traffic flow and the unsafe conditions that this project is going to create for all of us, and it's going to adversely impact my land and those of us that are in the area there. So I ask that you would consider opposing or denying this permit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have no more further comments in chambers. I have no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for staff or the applicant at this time, guys?
I have a question for Eric. So usually with churches, there's a considerable amount of noise, and from my personal observation of this piece of property, it was kind of in a bowl, kind of at the bottom of a bowl. Has there been anybody look at, I didn't see anything in the conditions about noise or anything like that. Has anybody looked at the acoustability of the area? You know, like how the acoustics will.
Eric Young, planning staff, no. No, the standard that they would be held to are the typical noise standards for the county. So no, there have been no studies on what potential noise from the site may be.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other further questions.
This is Peter Gishon for the record. I think I need Janelle, but I'm curious, because the numbers have seemed to bounce around a little bit, and there has been testimony here that the applicant even indicated that they would like to grow to 400. Is there an opportunity somewhere along the rest of the planning and building and engineering process by which a updated traffic study would actually be required if you get some indication that the numbers are going to be different?
Janelle's here. Let me briefly address that. I think the bouncing around of the numbers that we've experienced is partly a result of the metrics that we're required to use, that we use. And the metrics that we use, as Janelle explained, are based on square footage. And that kind of evens it out It does not take into account how one use may have more uses throughout the week, or be more evangelical and try and grow and bring more people. It doesn't really account for the way different religious assembly uses could operate. It's just, we look at the square footage of the different uses and we calculate that number, right? And so that's what we're required to, the metrics that we're required to use and that we base our analysis on. But then when you do hear statements and ideas about, well, we may have 400, or we may have this many people, or this is our typical number, those do seem somewhat inconsistent with the number that's based on square footage. And that is difficult to reconcile in your mind about, well, how's it really going to work, right? I'm sure that's what everybody's thinking, as you know, the numbers that the staff was required to use don't seem to match with what I'm hearing. So I recognize that, I understand that dissonance that's there, and I think it's a result of the metric that we always use, and this is the metric that's used every time we come before you for any use. It's the square footage is the calculation. So I apologize for that difference, and I think that that's unfortunately one of the things that kind of falls back on a board instead of staff to help work through, well, okay, this is how we see this. Because staff's trying to give you the best analysis we can based on the metrics and the numbers that we use. Janelle can explain how a future study could possibly be required if possible.
Mm-hmm. Janelle Thomas for the record. I would kind of look to legal to see if a particular condition may be added back into the proposed conditions of approval that, you know, when they come in for their building permit, that they need to provide an updated trip generation, which may generate the need for a future trip or I guess traffic impact analysis. But with the information that we've been given at this point, I removed that condition from my recommendation.
You can condition a project however you see fit, but it has to be conditioned in a manner that will be enforceable and that doesn't end in a dead end. If you require a traffic study, then what happens depending on what the traffic study shows?
Okay. And then Janelle, one more. In your staff report, one of your conditions was all roadway improvements necessary to serve the project shall be designed and constructed to county standards. Are you simply talking about its driveway on its property?
That is correct.
Okay, and could you contemplate any set of circumstances in their upcoming building application that would trigger any improvements to Rolling Ridge?
If it appeared that a full traffic impact analysis was required for the development, then contemplation of off-site improvements may be considered at that point.
Okay.
This is Pat Caldwell for the record. With using the square footage calculation of the roughly 6,500 square feet that will be occupied for worship, right? Is that how we calculate?
I would need to pull up the trip generation.
Yeah, okay.
Analysis.
Well, I was just wondering what the trigger would be, because if the size of the building is not going to change, then what further traffic analysis would be triggered by some other event that didn't seem like there would be one that.
I'm guessing that there would not be one.
Yes, okay.
So Janelle, so there's absolutely no consideration for what the size of the building is going to have in it in these calculations? It's based upon the size of the building.
Correct.
That's the trip generation.
Correct.
Not what's inside, not what's going to happen.
No, it's based on what's going to happen inside, based upon the use of the square footage that is being analyzed.
Based upon
So
the use.
those trip generation calculations are done, one trip per X number of square feet. So that's how the trip generation manual calculates it.
Okay. And that's going from point A, which would be the building, to where? Where's the end point?
It's
Is the end point
vehicles arriving at the facility and departing the facility.
just through their driveway?
Yes.
It doesn't take into consideration the other roads or access roads or main roads or?
Trip generation is strictly that. It is generating a number of trips that are traveling to the facility and exiting the facility. And so that threshold is what we base upon. That's how we base whether a full traffic impact analysis is required. Full traffic impact analysis would explore, key intersection analyses and things like that. But what history has shown us and what experience has shown us is that if that threshold of 80 peak hour trips is not exceeded, that the full traffic impact analysis is not warranted.
So there's no real consideration for the people on the roads to get onto Golden Valley Road. It's just
Not in the trip generation analysis that is required at this phase of development.
so if there was a mass evacuation that needed to happen like right now with what's going on in the world right now, based upon your trip generation, it would be legal, basically, right? I mean, they wouldn't be able to get out, but based upon we have to go by.
We are requiring a secondary emergency access.
Right, and so that's in the conditions, and then so with the conditions, everything in the conditions has to be met, or this is a no-go.
Correct.
Right.
Unless they come back and amend their application.
This is Pat Caldo for the record. So the calculation is based on the worship area and the stage, correct? Which is the 6,500 roughly square feet.
I would need to review the trip generation.
That's what I read in a 15,000 square foot building. So the foyer is rather large so I just think there's going to be more people with 154 spaces, the amount of traffic. I understand the calculation you have to make. But it just, to me, it doesn't seem a reasonable way to do it based on the number of spaces that there are in a single lane or a single road access in and out. Seems difficult to overcome, so.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any questions, so I'm ready for discussion. But.
Kathy, do you have anything else?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, great.
When you're up for discussion, I'll comment then.
Yep, certainly. Anything else, guys? Okay, let's close the public hearing and bring it into the board. Anyone want to make any comments?
Kathy does.
Kathy, you want to start?
Yeah, let me start. I was a little disappointed. Well, and perhaps I've always said this about the neighborhood meeting. I was a bit disappointed in the description of the neighborhood meeting in the staff report because, and by the applicant, because I don't feel as though these summaries of the neighborhood meetings are truly bringing together what really happened at the neighborhood meeting. And the brief paragraph in the staff report did not really convey, to my liking, sufficient acknowledgement that a large number of the complaints of the community echoed at that neighborhood meeting were not responded to. They did respond to the building surface and facade and the retention pond, but that was it. So I would appreciate going forward in that these descriptions of neighborhood meetings have a bit more detail and convey more candidly what the developer did not do or did not respond to, including some numbers like X number of people attended, and X number of people had criticisms, which, or X number of people supported it. So some basic data like that. I'm afraid I can't support this proposal because I would agree with a number of people who find it not consistent, and the site is not particularly suitable to this, the traffic issues and so forth, but I won't go into that anymore. But I would not be able to support this special use permit, so thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
This is Pat Calder for the record. Yeah, Kathy, I agree with you that the neighborhood meeting only talks about that they addressed the commitments to address the materials used, but the neighborhood participants expressed concerns about traffic, scenic vistas, drainage, and changes to the character of the surrounding area. But it doesn't say that all their concerns were addressed, only that they expressed these issues that they didn't. I don't know if they answered questions or not, but I really have a problem with the traffic issue that will result as building this and building it in an LDS zone that for I don't know how many years has been 1 acre plus parcels for residential. So it doesn't seem to make sense to me to allow church to build a 5 acre, 15,000 square foot building with 154 parking spaces.
Thanks. Let me jump in for a moment. So when I visited the site, the thing that stuck out most to me was just the mere fact that it's sitting on top of a hill and would just kind of be this, giant structure. But to Eric's point, somebody could come and build a 15,000 square foot house as a matter of right without requiring a special use permit. I live in South Reno behind Galena High School, and we have one point of access, Edmonton Drive, off of Mount Rose Highway. And coincidentally, in the middle of a residential neighborhood is an LDS church. It's 16,000 square feet large on 4 acres and coincidentally has 164 parking spaces. I have a 6-year-old. You could call me crazy. We let him ride his bike. He goes down to the little lending library by himself. We walk our dogs. Sunday mornings, you wouldn't know that there was a church there. It's the wildest thing. Galena High School, you know that there's a high school there. 8 a.m., 3 p.m., you don't want to be anywhere near the roads. But on Sunday morning, the church generates negligible traffic. So much so that we have no issues with walking our animals and letting our son ride his bike alone. So I think when I look at the findings, we are asked to determine if this is consistent with the master plan. Staff tells us that there's nothing in the master plan that would prohibit this. The staff is telling us that there are adequate utilities, that we will connect to the city of Reno, water and sanitary, and that the trip generation report does not indicate any roadway improvements are required. The site itself is physically suitable for a 15,000 foot structure, and you could make the argument that the issuance would not be significantly detrimental to public health. And so just based on my limited experience in my neighborhood and what the church does or does not do to the local traffic patterns, I'm going to agree with staff on this one.
Okay.
Rob, Leo?
I don't know. Leo Harishi for the record. I talk a lot. I tend to talk a lot. I'm pretty opinionated, and this has been an interesting experience being on the board and obliging me to not go off and not make my comments and to try and just take in what it is and look at what the facts is, and that on the one hand, yes, this facility does technically meet the master plan and that staff agrees that this is legally permissible, But as someone who's part of the personal touch, as part of the, for lack of a better word, the human observation of what the consequences are, and that even though I understand that this isn't just because we vote or approve or disapprove this here, that if we approve it, that boom, it's going in, going forward. We are still, I feel we are still here obligated to put in a personal comment and a personal input over whatever is legal and allowed and not allowed. And it is one thing that yes, someone could put in a house and an RV garage, which is probably, I don't know, I guess I need to look that up, probably a third the size of what this church is scheduled to be or planned to be. But this is 3 times the size of whatever an alleged house and or RV garage and accessory dwellings are allowed. I know personally, even though I did not go to this particular site, I know this area. I routinely, throughout my 25 years living here, have driven by Golden Valley Road, and I routinely see water running through that property, whichever is down there at the northern edge of the horse property there, abutting, that would be below this. I don't feel that a detention pond or retention pond would, certainly not even close to what was proposed in there, is going to alleviate or not make that situation already worse, that I normally see a small stream going through that person's property and their horse corrals that are there. And the fact, so on the one hand, you have the visual impact of 3 or 4 RV garages to the people on the northeast side, but then on the people on the western side, then you have 150 acre or 150 space parking lot that you get to look at. And so I don't see how that's not a detriment and a significant impact to the character and the visual impact of why and clearly what has been established there in that neighborhood for going on 50 plus years. So I can't support this particular use with and giving the church the benefit of the doubt, giving the church all good grace that they have a successful church and a successful congregation, and they grow their church. At either way, if they fail, then we have that big, huge building sitting there that is derelict in the middle of an otherwise established residential neighborhood. But if they succeed, then there's even more, at best, even more negative impact to the community, roadways, and infrastructure. And at worst, at best, then they succeed and they leave the area. And again, the homeowners are stuck with a semi-commercial, likely to be some form of commercial use building blob sitting there in the middle of an otherwise sparsely populated, sparsely settled, clearly residential area. So yes, it's legal, but as someone who's here to judge and make a human impact on, or input on the impact of something like this, I can't support this.
Thanks, Leo. Rob, anything to add?
Guess that means I'm up. So I'm looking at this and it says that per the Washoe County Code, Article 810, we have to, that all of the following findings must be made to the satisfaction of the board. That gives us a little bit of leeway. As far as consistency, that's the master plan, you're right. I couldn't find anything in there that says, no, we can't do that. I am concerned about drainage for the improvements. When I physically saw the lot, I don't personally see where the water is going to go, but that's something for engineering. Site suitability, I'm kind of struggling with that because it's up on a hill. Yeah, it's going to be 15 feet lower. And listening to one of the comments about the soil and all that, it could or could not work. I don't know. Of course, once again, that's Janelle and engineering. As far as military installation, obviously there's nothing there. Now, the one I'm struggling with is issuance, not detrimental. The issuance of this permit will not be significantly detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, injurious to the property or improvements of adjacent properties, or detrimental to the character of the surrounding area. I'm concerned about the character of the area. And I think that the safety aspect needs to be probably addressed a little bit further with if they do get up to the 400, especially going on to Golden Valley Road, but that's an engineering thing, that's not for me. So with that said, I'm having a hard time with the character of the surrounding area, so seeing as how I can't find that one, so I can't be in support of it at this time. But that does not mean that if it gets appealed, that the county commissioners may be able to find that.
Okay. Sounds like there's pretty good consensus amongst the board. Is anyone interested in making a motion?
Do you mind? Go ahead.
You want to go?
Yeah. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during this public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment denies with conditions the special use permit case number WSUP 25-0013, Sanctuary of God, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, not having made all 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code, Section 110.810.30.
Okay, that was Leo that made a motion for the record. Any second?
This is Rob, I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor of Leo's motion, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The motion that Leo proposed passes 4-1, and the SUP has been denied. Yep. Mr. Lloyd, may you please read the appeal procedure?
Absolutely, thank you. Most decisions rendered by the Board of Adjustment are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Board of Adjustment and qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 775-328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and the application fee.
Thank you. All right, any future agenda items? No? Any requests for information from staff? Okay. Any report on previous Board of Adjustment items, Mr. Lloyd?
Nothing to report on.
Any legal information and updates? Okay, it's time now for public comment. Any person is invited to speak on any item on or off the agenda during this period. Do we have any public comment?
I have Michael Marquis.
Please state your name for the record.
Michael Marquis for the record. just want to thank the board for your your consideration of in the denial of the thing, and there were a couple of things that weren't addressed, I felt, adequately by staff in terms of what was in the applicant's proposal when they talked about the numbers. In the original proposal by the applicant, they stated a maximum occupancy of 531 people, 400 for services, and 104 parking spaces. So the numbers have changed a little bit in what we've heard, where we said, I think on Eric's proposal, the presentation today, it said 156 parking spaces, and I realize this has already been decided, which is fantastic, because I opposed the SUP, but just setting the record straight on the numbers. And also the fact that, I'm a retired scientist, and I don't understand the traffic report, but a lot of it was kind of made based on the square footage without extrapolating to the maximum capacity and so on, with like the 531 people. Even if you use the math and say that you divide that by 2 people per car, well, you only 2 people per car at 154, that's just 308 people. So what about the other people that make up the difference with 531 and the overflow parking and so on? So it just magnified the traffic consideration and also the disruption, to the area. So those are some of the things that weren't, I felt, suitably addressed when you asked about them by staff, that I just wanted the opportunity to come and, and clear the air. And I did want to ask the board a question, if I can. And Mr. Lloyd, you mentioned about the appeal procedure. Will public still be able to weigh in on that if there's, for example, if it is appealable and it goes, I guess it doesn't go to you guys, it goes to the Board of Commissioners? Will there be a public comment portion of that as well?
Mr. Lloyd?
I'm looking at the chair. Is it okay to answer the public question?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yes, the appeal, assuming there's an appeal that's heard by the county commission, we will notice to the same folks that got notice to this public hearing.
Okay.
And you will also have an opportunity to provide testimony at that meeting before the county commission.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much for the extra time, board. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
No more public comment in chambers, no one on Zoom.
Okay, the time is now 3:46. This meeting is adjourned.